I'm Bernina expert Amanda Murphy, and this month I'd like to show you how I quilted my Stardust quilt. So I quilted this on a long arm, but you can also quilt it on a domestic machine. Either way, you want to start with doing all your in the ditch work. So here I'm doing the basic bones of the quilt. On a long arm, like the Q24, I'd start from the top and work down, but on a domestic, I'd start from the center and work out. Step 2 would be outlining these stars, whether they're embroidered stars, as shown here, or the stars that I fussy cut from the fabric. So I go around all the stars to shapes, and then to make them stand out even further, I actually stippled around the background of these stars. I was originally going to do this with the embroidered stars, but I decided that didn't need it, but I did stipple around the fussy cut stars. Step 3 was quilting the rays inside the blocks, and I used a ruler to do this. So I stitched out from the corner till I was 1/4 inch from the edge of the block. Then I stitched back down toward the corner again. You'll notice my ruler is 1/4 inch away from that corner. And then I stitched out again, angling the ruler a little bit. And I wanted 3 rays in these square blocks. So here I'm quilting a ray in the corner. You'll notice that my stitch line is 1/4 inch away from the edge of the block. Now I'm stitching that back down toward the corner again, and then stitching out towards the edge of the quilt. And I'm putting the ruler behind so I can use the edge of the ruler to make sure that I'm coming out 1/4 inch away from my original line. And now I'm stitching back down as a final step to the very corner of the block, and then I can travel around over my previous stitching to get to the next area. I also quilted these single rays inside the pinwheels, and then I stippled inside of them just to add more texture. Okay, step 4. Step 4 was to place the digitized square design inside the block area. So I was on a long arm on the Bernina Q24, and I used the boundary feature to skew each design inside the block itself. Now, I made the designs the exact size of the block, but if you're on a domestic machine, I would recommend making the design slightly smaller so you have a little bit of leeway if you don't place it exactly correctly. I also like to use pinpoint placement when I'm on my 7 or 8 series. So next, the last step was the border design. And for the borders, I used the markers on the Bernina Q24 to show where the border was on the screen, where the imported seams were, and then I moved the design into those borders. Now, an important thing to remember there is you have to get rid of the bounding box before you stitch, or it will stitch the bounding blocks. I completed each of these steps and then rolled the quilt and completed them again until I worked down the entire quilt. And that's how I quilted the Stardust quilt. I hope that you've enjoyed the quilt along.